one of the most fascinating sections in your book is where you discuss attention and the notion that it serves as a kind of basis for ethical engagement.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Can you unpack for the audience the details of this idea and the
Yeah, sure.
implications that it may have?
Sure. Yeah, this is a great question. And in fact, this is related to the project that you mentioned in the introduction. I'm editing this volume with my friend and collaborator, Graham Burnett, who's a historian of science at Princeton, and based on a conference we had last year on the topic of attention, bringing together people who work on the history of psychology, psychiatry, cognitive science, philosophy, anthropology, really a remarkable group of scholars. And we want it to be kind of the definitive treatment of this topic that is of interest in so many different fields. It's of interest, among other things, to AI researchers. People who are working with the large language models are often persuaded that attention, that is the ability to spontaneously eliminate certain information in favor of other information, is really the key task for modeling human-like intelligence. Now, for human intelligence, for real human intelligence, maybe we can talk about AI later, the topic of attention really takes off in the late 19th century, in part in work of people like William James, who are philosophers, but are also really close to the new developing science of experimental psychology. And way back, you have people doing the sort of empirical research, for example, eyeball tracking, that would become kind of part of the basic architecture of the algorithmic structuring of our online experience. And that is, as my friend and colleague Yves Citon here in Paris puts it, a system of attention extraction, right? The whole internet is can be described as an attention extractive economy, in the same way that the 16th century was a silver extraction economy and the 20th century is a petroleum extraction economy. To think about it like that, and to think about, well, where does the attention come from? It doesn't come from wells, it doesn't come from mines, it comes from us, and it's what is fueling the largest industry in the world now. That is really remarkable. But let's move back to the ethical part of it. Indeed, on my analysis, and here, you know, there's a lot of different ways to approach the topic of attention. Colleagues in philosophy like Carolyn Dicey Jennings, Jonardon Ganeri have written excellent books on attention. What interests me is the peculiar kind of overlap between the cognitive and the ethical dimensions of human experience. You know, if you say something like, I see an apple on the table, or something like that, that, you know, you're registering the presence of something, you're noting it, you're checking it off, but there's generally not any plausible sense in which your comportment to the apple that you see is an ethical one, right? Now, if you say, and this is a fancy way of speaking in English, you can still say it, it's correct English, even if it's precious. I'm attending to the apple on the table. What this seems to involve is some kind of commitment where you're really staring at the thing, and doing this for a long time without any predetermined sense of what your perception of the object you're attending to is going to be by the time you finish. Now, paradigmatically, that kind of experience is one we often reserve for works of art, right? Where you can stand in front of a painting and new dimensions of it are revealed to you little by little, and you come away having had disclosed to you things that you didn't suspect were there before, right? And so it's a submission to the possibility of self-transformation, right? And that's ethical simply because it's, you know, it's a big thing to do, right? It's ethical maybe more in the classical Greek sense, where ethics wasn't all about duties towards others, but was more about how ought I to live my life. So attention then is a special mental faculty to the extent that it requires this kind of ethical commitment. And attention is the thing that, or is the distinctly human faculty that is, I think, most threatened, most subject to perversion and distortion by our new technologies, again, because of their raison d'etre, which is attention extraction.